Despite the racial tensions still at a boil across the country, what's on your screen? Well, the tragic event in Dallas last week could lead to this, a brand new way of policing in the United States. The use of police robots equipped with explosives to neutralize the Dallas shooter. It got the job done. While it has drawn criticism by some, the technology may also very well be the wave of the future in precincts across America. Sean Bielat is the man at the helm of a company that makes these robots. He is selling them to a lot of precincts and to lots of military. His company is called Endeavor Robotics. Also joining us to weigh in on the effectiveness of this technology for police is former homicide detective and Fox News contributor Rod Wheeler. Welcome to you both. Sean, I want to begin with you. When you saw what happened in Dallas and that the way the shooter was taken out was with a robot, what was your first thought?
Well, my first thought was if robots were being used to save lives, that's exactly what they're intended for. Our robots go out and they keep operators out of harm's way. We keep people away from dangerous objects, dangerous substances. And in this case, a robot was used in an extreme circumstance to keep SWAT team members and other officers away from a highly dangerous individual who was obviously delusional, hate-filled, rage-filled, etc. And if our robot saved a life, I'm extremely happy.
Well, I think it is extremely important to make that point, because if you listen to the police chief, he said they had exhausted all other options. Rod, did it look like that to you? You've fought criminals the old school way back in D.C. for many, many years. Tell us what you thought when you saw the use of the robot.
I thought it was very creative, Liz. You know, we've been using robots in law enforcement for decades, so the concept is not new. And what's new in this particular instance is how the robot was used to actually deliver a fatal blow to a suspect. And that's the first time in the United States that that has happened. And so the debate today is whether or not law enforcement should, in fact, use robots to end a situation by causing the death of a suspect. And I think that's up for debate. I see a lot of ways, though, that the robot can be used. You know, typically, real quickly, we use robots to defuse bombs and look in areas whereby we don't want to send officers in. But if you think about it now, we could retrofit a robot to maybe be equipped with tasers or maybe be equipped with some kind of a gas that will overcome the suspect. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can utilize the robot.
Well, what happened in Dallas?
I think that's right. Just to dovetail on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, we see robots as having this unique opportunity to shoot second. When you send a Marine, a soldier, a law enforcement officer into a room and there's somebody who's armed and dangerous, that individual doesn't have the opportunity to pause. They have to shoot. They have to react in the moment. A robot doesn't have to do that. You can send in a robot, use two-way audio and tell the suspect to disarm. You can escalate the situation with taser or another non-lethal force. And then ultimately you can deploy a lethal measure if necessary. But ideally, that robot is saving lives even in that tense situation by giving time and space.
Yeah, you know, your robots can actually climb over very rough terrain. They can, is it true they can climb upstairs and descend stairs?
That's right.
Talk about some of the bigger things that they can pull off here.
Well, they can, like you said, go over very difficult obstacles. They can go into buildings and help clear buildings. They can go into drain pipes and subterranean areas. They can map out areas. So it's a matter of taking a bunch of different technologies and integrating them onto a robotic platform, which is highly mobile and highly capable and highly rugged, and is capable of being deployed in a variety of environments.
Rob, is there any doubt in your mind that given the chance, Micah Johnson, the shooter who had already murdered 5 police officers, would, if given the chance, have shot another one?
Oh, absolutely. He would have shot anybody that walked anywhere near him. You know, I thought it was a dynamic decision, if you will, on the part of Chief Brown to use the robot, because if he were not to have used that robot and he were to send SWAT officers in, I guarantee you it would have been a bloodbath, because this guy Johnson was not going to go out alive. He had already been shot, so he had nothing to lose. And real quickly, Liz, another example where we could have used a robot, now that I look back at it, is the Pulse nightclub. If those officers would have had a robot to quickly go into that nightclub, maybe, just maybe, they would have been able to see exactly where that suspect, Martin, was at the time. So when we look at all of these cases, we have to think about what do we have at our disposal that can save lives and end a critical situation.
Okay, and here's a critical situation, Rod and Sean. We have just heard that an officer has been shot in the left arm and finger in Michigan outside the Berrien County Courthouse in St. Joseph. Police are not giving any other details right now, but this is just mayhem here when you hear about these things. There are also 1 or possibly 2 civilian victims. All have been transported to the hospital. But, you know, Sean, I don't know if this would apply certainly to what's happening in Michigan right now with this breaking news, but how many of these systems have you sold? Specifically, I know you've sold 6,000, many of them to military, but what about to outright police departments?
So we've sold into a few hundred different law enforcement agencies. The demand is much greater than the funding available to buy these. These are very expensive systems. They're high technology, and a lot of departments can't afford them. So the idea that a robot would be used in the way that it was in Dallas repeatedly is extremely unlikely, just because they are so expensive. But these police departments want these tools. They want to keep people out of harm's way. They want to keep officers out of harm's way, and they want to de-escalate situations, and these robots provide those capabilities.
You know, Rod, as we hear what happened in Dallas, and we're hearing this breaking news that a police officer has been shot outside of a courthouse in Michigan, what does this lead you to believe that our police officers, who, especially in the case of Dallas, had jumped in front of civilians in order to protect them, or, and this amazed me, you had officers, some of them SWAT, jumping out in order to draw fire from the alleged shooter, Micah Johnson? Well, he's no longer alleged. He did it, obviously. But, you know, so that they could figure out where he was hiding. You know, heroism at the most unbelievable levels here. What does this tell you about getting people to even want to be in law enforcement anymore? It's a really depressing situation here.
Right. Not only is it depressing, Liz, but it's a challenge for law enforcement. I mean, it really is. And I spent the past weekend in Dallas embedded with the police down there, really having a lot of discussions. And they tell me each and every day, they was like, Rod, you know, it's a different world out here. Yeah. We know in law enforcement that we are targets. And because of all of these other issues going on in the country, law enforcement officers know that any day they can find themselves in a situation like we saw in Dallas, Texas. So, you know, we know the challenges. We do this job in law enforcement not because of the pay. We do it because of love of country. And hopefully the country will come together, back our law enforcement officers using proper technology such as the robots and other technology, maybe even drones. You know, we can advance the world of law enforcement so that we can try to do a better job.
Yeah, and keep our officers safe at the same time. Before we go, Sean, any plans to go public? If you're selling 6,000 of these things, you could obviously ramp up here.
Well, we only went private back in April, so we are focused really on growing our company organically, looking at potential acquisitions, and, you know, growing a great company over the next several years, and then we'll take it from there.
We'll be watching it. Good to see you both. Thank you very much.